Inheritance tax. It's the new political dynamite. The minute the economist Danielle Wood of the Grattan Institute got the new gig as Productivity Commissioner, all hell broke loose because Danielle held the private view that there should be an inheritance tax. It was her personal view, an inheritance tax, she was quick to add, but the damage was done. Noted economic thinker Pauline Hanson came out on Sky News. "She's nothing more than a Marxist," said Pauline. The cat was out of the bag. It was a beautiful opportunity for political fear-mongering. Peter Dutton got all riled up. Keith Pitt, the Queensland Coalition Senator. Labor, big taxing government. The reality is, of course, that the Coalition, the recent government, was the biggest taxing government in Australian history. But of course, truth and politics do not go hand in hand. So then the Labor ministers had to come out with their rebuttals. Deborah O'Neill, no way. Strong rebuttal, strong denial from Deborah. Inheritance tax was not on the table at all. Same deal, Treasurer Jim Chalmers. Strong denial that there will be an inheritance tax. And let's face it, it will not become political reality in the short term. Albo, there is no way that Albo's Labor government is going to introduce an inheritance tax. They won't even talk about it. They will not utter a word. It is indeed, as the Murdoch rags put it, political dynamite. They will give nothing to let Peter Dutton have the opportunity to fearmonger. Stage 3 tax cuts for the wealthy, they are still on the table. Stage 3 tax cuts, negative gearing, franking credits, it's all locked in. There will be very little in the way of reform because the absolute principal objective of the government is to get a second term, to lock it in by centre-right or centre politics. And you can understand why, of course. We don't want the last mob romping back into office again for another 9 years. They will do anything to get this second term. They will shower rich people with money from helicopters, buy billionaires swimming pools if they have to keep all the lobbyists in check and to stop negative election tactics. But the problem is, where is the money going to come from to fund future infrastructure and public services? There's going to be more old people to fund their health and pensions, and there's going to be less young workers to do it. So the Labor government is protesting that they'll be able to do this, and they're saying multinational tax avoiders. We've always said multinational tax avoiders are the ones to target. They are the biggest, the most wealthy, the biggest tax avoiders, and they are the wealthiest institutions in the world operating in Australia. It's natural that Labor should target them. The only problem is they're not. The last significant reform in multinational tax avoidance was by the Hockey and Abbott government, good old Tony Abbott, back in 2016, and they were real reforms, and they have brought in billions of dollars, but that is just a little bit of what could be raised from these tax avoiders. Unfortunately, the Minister, Andrew Leigh, had some reasonable multinational tax avoidance reforms on the table, ready to go, but then the government walked them back. The country-by-country reporting, transparency reforms, scotched, put off to whenever. The PRRT reforms, well, they're not really reforms. They're just up-fronting a bit of tax, then giving it back to the oil and gas lobby further down the track. Virtually nothing is being done. Problem, of course, is that multinational tax avoiders and their lobbyists lobby hard, and they pay the government, they pay the major political parties money, political donations, and Labor does not seem to be able to stand up to its corporate donors. They seem pathologically incapable of significant reform. The problem that we have is that the tax breaks for mostly wealthy retirees are up around the $38 billion mark now. That compares to about $40 billion for the age pensioners. Superannuation has turned, it's morphed into a giant tax shelter, wealth passed on from generation to generation. The original purpose was to fund people's retirements, but it seems that that purpose has given way to the tax shelter. So really, an inheritance tax would be fair because it would claw some of this largesse back so that younger working people would not have to fund the burden of baby boomer retirement and healthcare costs. So it's not going to happen in the near term, but just to give Danielle Wood a good run here. She's an excellent economist, she's highly regarded, she's a good thinker, she's independent. She says, to quote her, that there is simply no policy justification for this inequitable distribution of wealth. Why does an older household earning income of $100,000 pay the same tax as a younger household earning an income of $50,000? It doesn't make good economic sense or social sense. To quote Danielle, incomes for households over 65 have more than doubled in the past 25 years. They've grown substantially faster than household wealth for under 55s. But households over 65 pay virtually no more income tax than people of their same age did 25 years ago. Such is the policy stasis. To continue to quote Danielle, indeed the share of older households paying any tax fell from 27% in the mid-1990s to 17% pre-COVID. And that has contributed to a tax system where somebody's date of birth is almost as important as their income in determining their tax contribution. Thank you for your support. Please like, share, comment below, throw us a few bucks on Patreon if you can afford it.